Hello,
So,
nice to see you. Hi.
so as we get going, we usually take a few minutes to talk about things that are going on at local art museums. We're going to be talking about Ansel Adams in our time at the DeYoung, but also like Verena, you and I got a chance to see the new Frank Bowling exhibition on the seventh floor at SF MoMA. What did you think of that, Verena?
Basically, I was totally bowled over because at first, most of us got upset that we sold a Rothko in order to get newer artists. And so after seeing Bowling, he is fantastic. We could easily sell another Rothko. I mean, his work is just so unusual, so large. I can't even talk about it. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I liked it also. And also, I like artists that have range, that do different things at different times in their career. And he has that, but he's also still alive. He's 89 years old and producing some of the best work of his career. He's from Guyana, of African descent. He's not African American because he went from Guyana to England. So he's kind of African British or something like that. So highly recommend that. And also the other thing still, I guess it closed. The Sergeant at the Legion of Honor was really a great show.
Yeah, that did close, but that was very good. Yeah.
What else? Do you guys have anything else at the museums that you would recommend people go see? Hindi Wiley, I guess, at the DeYoung. That I haven't seen that yet, but that's got to be great.
That is an amazing, and also an amazing show. Gigantic paintings with. It's just one of those shows that one must see, I feel.
So lots of good stuff. You know, the museums have kind of their summer exhibitions going right now, and it's a great time to get out there and see this stuff. We are Art Viewing Adventures. We've got, I think we're at about 1 o'clock. So Nikki, you're gonna, I see you got your little doggy back there. That's
yeah,
cool.
she's right there watching. Can you see her?
Yeah, a little art dog.
Yeah, art dog, and then
Had dogs on the show before. So Nikki, tell us about the community living campaign and get us started here.
Okay, hi everybody. Thank you so much, Rodney. Nice to be back with everybody. We're the Community Living Campaign. We're a nonprofit in San Francisco that is dedicated to the advocacy and support and some services we provide for seniors and disabled people. And besides being involved in the arts and writing and having like 3 writing groups going on, we also do a lot with tech, trying to close the digital divide between seniors and tech. And we have a lot of online, Zoom, in-person, phone in, to learn how to use your phone or any other device. So that's really important and one of our main goals, and we've achieved a lot in that. So another event we have that Community Living is working on and doing very soon is on Sunday, June 11th at St. Anne's in the Sunset District. It's by Andronicos, the old Andronicos. They're having this really nice older adults fair called Never Better Elders. And they'll have some entertainment, they'll have some resources, and you can meet people from the Community Living Campaign and find out about our exercise program. So, there's going to be a lot going on. It should be a really nice day. And people from my group, Midtown Terrace by Forest Hills, they'll be there. So that's all. And I also want to greet Jennifer, our tech. Hi, Jennifer, and welcome Robert and Verena.
Yeah, so thanks, Nikki. And one other thing the Community Living Campaign has is, of course, Richie Unterberger, Rock History tonight. I didn't check and see what he's doing, but it's always something good. It's at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, is it tonight? I don't see it on the calendar.
Is that right? Maybe. Oh, that's right. He's traveling, so maybe.
No, he's Tuesday. Tuesday, tomorrow night, 6 to 7:30 AAPI musicians. I've never heard him coming on.
That would be Asian American Pacific Islanders. Interesting, because that's your Buena Gardens Festival on Saturday had Asian American rock bands playing. Very cool. Let's get into what we're talking about today, which is the Ansel Adams exhibition. I am joined by my good friends, Rob Tatt and Verena Lukas. How are you both doing today?
Very well, thank you.
Good. Nice to be back.
And I really am grateful to both of you for working with me on this presentation, because you guys both have not just experience with photography, but with Ansel Adams himself. And we'll get into that. And also I want to mention that Rob and Verena are also both city guides. And Verena graduated from the city guides training class on Saturday.
Woo-hoo!
Yeah, congratulations, Verena. Verena's going to be doing the Mission Murals tour, and we're going to have her back on Art Viewing Adventure to tell us about these amazing murals that she's going to be taking people on walking tours of. So get ready for that. We've good turnout today, so welcome everybody. We will be, maybe throwing some questions out there. We'll be monitoring chat, and if you want to raise your hand and ask a question or interject your own thoughts on what we're talking about, that's always welcome. But here's the guy we're talking about, Ansel Adams, kind of synonymous with Northern California. Verena, tell us about Ansel Adams and this exhibition at the DeYoung Museum.
Well, he's probably one of the most iconoclastic photographers of landscape, and mostly black and white, almost all black and white, except in the 60s. And he not only just took the photograph, he also spent a lot of time in the dark room. He had a special system whereby he could do in the dark room what maybe did not come out on the camera. And later on, we have some examples of what you're able to do in the dark room. And he's a photographer born in 2002, and he died in 1984, started photography at the age of 14. Somebody gave him a camera, and as soon as he got the camera, after a few days, he knew that's what he wanted to do. That was his thing in life, to photograph. And then later, much later, he got which you can see here, a large camera, which is not that easy to use, and you generally have to have a hood over it. So, but it does the most beautiful, sharp photography. So, yeah, that is about Ansel Adams and how he came into landscape photography. He was actually born in San Francisco at Seacliff. He was born in a house that overlooked what later is to become the Golden Gate Bridge and then the Marin Headlands. And he loved that. He photographed that. And that is what he said started him in landscape photography. Let's
move on and take a look at some of the images.
Yep.
This is from early in his career.
Yes, these are called, his first portfolio was called Parmelian Prince of the High Sierras. And it was unusual at that time for photographers to publish portfolios. First of all, it was very hard for any photographer to sell a photograph. They sold very inexpensively. But he had a patron, a man named Albert Bender, who was a successful insurance agent, wealthy man, and who also gave a lot of art to institutions at MoMA, other places. And he liked Adams' work and came up with this idea of making a portfolio. And people ask, what does Parmelian mean? It means nothing. It was a made-up word that for marketing purposes, because they wanted to make it sound like something special. Slide, please. So some of the portfolio was images that we would call pictorialist. You can see how soft this print is compared to what we usually think of as Ansel Adams, which will sharp focus, what was called straight photography, unmanipulated. Well, manipulated certainly in the darkroom, but this soft focus was a style of photography popular in the up until about the 1920s, 30s maybe, and then as photographers started to move into the sharper focus. You can see it's on this. It's a soft sort of image. It's hard to see, but these were on a sort of a tissue paper. You could see the sort of the color of the the border, and quite beautiful as prints. Slide. What about this one, Verena?
This is one of his photographs that show, as Robert said, he did a lot of photographs that weren't that sharp. And here in 1932, Boards and Thistles is a photograph that shows the sharp focus that Ansel Adams was later known about. So this is a great photograph to show his focusing and his sharpness.
Can I ask you guys, so they start doing this really sharp focus photography, and he's not alone in doing that, right?
Right. There's a group that forms called Group F64, and it was the members of it were like a roster of who's who of early California photographers, and it was quite extraordinary because the whole style was this pictorialist soft focus. And for them to start doing, they called it straight photography, and the name F64 has to do with the stop, the exposure on the lens, which gave them long depths of field and the sharpest image. So that's why they called it that. And you can see the beauty of the detail here that's brought out in this, and some of the proponents of straight photography, talked about the photographing the thing itself. This is a great example of that whatever the object is, whatever the subject is, that's what it's about. It's about the thing itself, just the beauty of looking at that fence and the greenery in front of it, and something that you might just walk by and not even notice it, but here it's called to your attention.
And what I want to say also, that was the year when the F64 group had their first exhibit at the De Young Museum. And that was something very, very special. It was a turning point in the history of photography.
Yes, very much so. Slide.
Yeah, and then I was just wondering, like on the East Coast, are the photographers in like other parts of the United States or in Europe, are they doing this also, or is this really a California thing?
Well, yes and no. Stieglitz, Alfred Stieglitz was really the big name, the big mover in photography, and everyone wanted his his blessings. And he also transitioned into straight photography, but these things happen slowly, and I think by the 30s and 40s, pretty much everyone was doing the sharp focus.
We were doing it first.
Yeah. I think to a great extent, it started with Group F64. They were the proponents of it. This is a gorgeous print.
Yeah, so tell us about what makes this, in your mind, from both of your minds, what makes this such an extraordinary image? And also, I'd like to hear, like, if you're out in in the audience and you want to share your thoughts on this, what do you like it or not like it? Please let me know. But go ahead, Rob and Verena.
This is one of those photographs where you have a tremendously dramatic, the sky, the field, the trees, and the way he photographed it. You have to look very closely. Look on the bottom. You see a small horse there. And that is something, when he saw the horse, he was actually waiting. And once he started seeing everything clearly, he calls it pre-visualizing. He made the shot. He doesn't shoot photographs, he makes photographs.
So a couple of things to notice here. First of all, is the long, what we call depths of field, the long depth of field, the fact that the horse is in focus and the mountaintops way in the distance are also in focus. Again, due to his skill, he was Adams was a real technician. He wrote books on photographic technique, and even invented a light meter. And as we'll see later, he just was a master printer as well. Also, the darkened sky, which was something that he used, I think, a red filter, I believe, Verena. That's not, if I'm
yeah,
to
he
darken the
used
sky.
he used the telephoto lens and filters.
Yeah. So it's a sort of what we think of as a typical Adams print, a beautiful landscape.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I just love the contrast is just so extraordinary.
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
Amazing.
And
That's
maybe the
fine.
fact that like there's two different things that are lit up, the mountains behind,
Mhm.
and then the horse and the trees, like that's, I don't know, you'd think that would be kind of unusual conditions that would give you that, right? Is that a cloud that's causing this other mountain to be in shadow?
Probably hard to tell.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
hard
can't
to
tell
know.
that.
And
Yeah.
again, he might have darkened that in the printing,
Yeah.
to create a more dramatic image.
Yeah.
Verena mentioned that he waited for the horse to come into the picture. That was a short wait. He actually, when he was photographing in the High Sierra and Yosemite and so on, if he saw the light in a perfect position on a walk or something and didn't have his camera with him, he would note the day and the time and go back next year, the following year, to make that photograph, because that was the right time to be at that spot. So
That is a great story.
Yeah.
Because I always think of that. Like I go to a place and I'm thinking, oh, if I were here at just a different time of day, this would be an ideal image.
Yeah.
And for him, he not only thinks about that, he thinks about like what day of the year it needs to be.
Yes, because that's where the light is at that point.
Yeah.
So let's move on, huh?
Yeah. So another one.
Yeah.
Talk about this image.
One of his most famous ones, maybe the most famous, Moonrise Fernandez, New Mexico, and it has a wonderful story behind it. Verena, you want to tell us about that?
Well, this is actually the most famous work that most people know, and it was an accidental shot. He was driving with his son through the landscape, and he saw the moon, and he saw that the sun was just sort of going down and still illuminating the houses, and so he tried to immediately take a photograph, but hell's bells, he couldn't find his light meter, and he didn't really have much time. And his knowledge of f-stops and that showed him how to take the photograph. So he really didn't need the light meter. And within seconds after this, it was gone. And I think there is another photograph following that shows the original shot and Ansel Adams, what he does in the darkroom.
Yeah.
So now you can realize the darkroom was one of the most important things in Ansel Adams photography. Yeah,
this is so-called straight print. In other words, just a straight print with no manipulation in the darkroom, and you can see how washed out it was. It's not, you can't really see it in this reproduction, unfortunately, but the moon is the only thing that really would be clear in this image. And what Verena was saying is he knew the moon, the f-stop of the moon, and so he exposed for the moon, and everything else fell into place. And since he did that, you can see that everything else was pretty much washed out. And why don't you go back to the previous Rodney? But you can see that in the darkroom, he was able to create this print, really, really marvelous. So shows his skill as a printer.
I just want to point out some comments in chat, which were actually about the earlier photograph, I think, of this one.
Yeah.
It applies to both of these. So Lorna says, the play of black and white is gorgeous and so dramatic. And Gail says, love it. So many dramatic layers. You think you see everything, and then you look again and see something you didn't see before. Love it. So yeah, like it's just like there is a drama to this, right?
Mm-hmm.
It
Oh,
gets you,
absolutely.
makes you realize like nature is not just some kind of passive force.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
This is also, I think, the most expensive photograph that has been sold by Ansel Adams. I don't really know right now what it costs, but it's in the thousands of dollars,
Oh, it's in the tens of thousands.
tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah,
Where Robert would know.
Yeah, depending upon the size and the age and the provenance and all that, I think some of them have sold for well over $100,000.
Right, yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
So
And
I could have had it for $400.
well, Verena, you're going to tell us about your own history with Ansel
Well,
Adams.
it's very simple. I took an Ansel Adams workshop in Yosemite, and it was a darkroom workshop, exactly what you're seeing here. I was standing in the darkroom, and actually it was wonderful. There were lots of other famous photographers involved in this. And at the end of this workshop, we all were offered Moonrise over Hernandez for $400. Well, it was in the early 70s. That was a hell of a lot of money. And just paying for this workshop was too much. So I said no. And now I could kill myself. And
Please don't do that,
didn't buy
Verena.
yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
But yeah, if you could, so if you go back in time, Verena, I mean, for me, I'd go to the Fillmore Auditorium and see Jefferson Airplane, but you would go back to that workshop and you would somehow come up with $400 to buy that print.
Yeah, I would definitely buy it. And most everybody bought the print,
Mm,
but they were all
Really?
wealthier than I was.
Lorna asks, how much did Ansel Adams contribute to a redefinition of beauty? What are your thoughts on that question? That's a good question.
That's a very good question. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it the land? Is that about landscape, beauty of landscape, I guess?
I would think so, right? I would think that, something like this was not, this is 1941. Was photography providing images like this up until this point?
Well, yes and no. I mean,
Yeah.
photography was evolving as a fine art at this point. The reason that the print was so inexpensive, of course, even in 1970s dollars, was that there really was no market for photography. It wasn't thought of as art, so it really was evolving. And I think that images like this, people saw these and thought, "Gee, this is really gorgeous. This is art." And so, yes, I think he did contribute to that.
Yeah, definitely.
Photography had been pictorialist and of course was originally used in documentary, basically to document. And this whole idea of the camera doesn't lie and so on and so forth. But Adams took it to a new level, and with darkroom manipulation and all that, created a really beautiful.
Yeah.
Also at that point, photography was not an art. It was not anything that people would actually really buy or that was exhibited. And that is one of the factors there too, that with this photograph, finally, photography came into its own and got a little bit into the art world, into the collector's world and the galleries.
Yeah, it seems like up until this point, photography is much more documentary, like it's just showing us the world out there, capturing it, something that they're excited about because photography is only invented in the mid-19th century.
Mm-hmm.
But then Ansel Adams is taking images like this and turning it into something like that. And he's doing it in the dark room. Can you tell us just a little bit, like, how does he achieve this? What's his technique at a high level?
Well, I mean, Robert is the expert. Basically, he has his own system. A black and white photograph has to have 10 zones from white to black. And basically, you photograph for the shadows and expose for the highlights in the darkroom. The exposing is in the darkroom and the shooting. They're two different things. That's why there is a special light meter that I also used to have that showed you exactly how you would photograph and what you would do in the darkroom. Robert?
So in other words, having this full range of the 10 zones from complete white to complete black, and what's called a dense negative, meaning that you have all the information there to be pulled out of the negative in the printing. And then in the printing, it's a process called dodging and burning, where basically you hold back light on certain parts of the image, and you add more light. So you burn versus dodging, holding back, where you literally use objects of your hand to keep the light from hitting certain parts in order to create that dramatic print in the darkroom. So it's very much a handmade object. A gelatin silver print, which is what we're talking about, is very much a handmade object, and no two will be exactly alike.
Mhm.
I still think I want to just ask one question about the famous photograph that we were just showing.
Yeah.
So that he is going to do this dodging and burning, and he's going to turn this sky black, but he's going to keep the moon very recognizable.
Right.
So is he like somehow just blocking, or he's just, maybe he's got something with a hole in it that allows us to see the moon.
That's exactly what he used.
Exactly.
That's exactly what he used. Yeah, and it's a good place to talk about. One of his most favorite or famous sayings is that he used to say that he was a musician. He was a very fine pianist, and almost concert quality, some people say. But anyway, he didn't develop that. He developed photography instead. But he used to compare a photograph to music, and he would say that the negative is the score, and the print is the performance. So in the print can be the print, many different prints can be interpreted from the same negative, very much the way different orchestras will, and different conductors will take the same score and interpret it into different performances.
That's something kind of unique about photography, is that there's these two sides to it. There's the creation of the negative, and then there's the creation of the print.
Exactly.
And like you said, like in music, it sort of has an analog to that. Painting really does not, I don't think.
No, not really. No, because I mean, the painting is the painting, but with that negative, that score, you can play it many different ways. You can interpret it many different ways.
And even if other photographers had taken the same shot, they would not have come up with this print that was perfectly and only Ansel Adams.
Right. We should move on. There's lots more to see.
Yeah, let's move on. Let's talk about some of these classic Yosemite photographs.
Yeah, one of the great ones.
So he's so associated with Yosemite. And if you go to the exhibition at the De Young, you will see a lot of pictures of Yosemite. We're going to see a lot of other things, though. We're going to see, it's going to really expand your understanding of Ansel Adams. But what do you think he's doing here with this photograph that makes it such a masterpiece?
Here he was actually really waiting for everything to come together. The clouds, the fog. It took a long time to photograph it. And this and another photograph that we haven't shown, the monolith, he called it his Mona Lisas. That they were actually the ones that everybody wanted to look at. And that was the beginning of where he really, really started to come into his own. So this is quite a famous photographs, and it was taken after a sudden rainstorm. And you cannot predict a rainstorm. So he was standing there forever until this came. And then, of course, 5 minutes later, it was all gone.
So he spends a lot of time in Yosemite. Did he stay at the Ahwahnee, or was he more of like a Curry Village kind of guy?
I think once he was married, his wife, his wife's family had a photography studio there, the best studio. So I assume that he stayed, with them in their home in Yosemite.
We had a question come in from Gail. Going back to that what we're talking about in the darkroom. How much time would he spend in the darkroom creating these images? Like,
I had no idea. Verena, do you have some
Oh, it
sense?
would, since I used to do dark room too, I could spend it, it's what like a womb. You only had an orange light in there. And I could spend hours in there. And I imagine Ansel Adams spent more hours than I ever did in there. There's so much to do in the dark room.
You know, a lot of it is getting the print right. They're doing test prints.
Yeah.
And he may print it many times until he gets what he wants. And each time he prints it, he'll make notes about how he dodged and burned. 10 seconds here or 3 seconds here or whatever,
Right.
and with diagrams, and so he could basically recreate it. But getting that fine tuned sometimes took a long time. And
but he obviously loved doing that. And
oh yeah,
you always say like you need 10,000 hours to master something. I'm sure he had many, many more than that.
Yeah, and as I said, he was a master technician. Both in terms of photographing and also in terms of printing, and he was a lover of gadgets. I didn't know Ansel well, but when I was in graduate school in the early 70s, I worked at Brooks Camera, which was a big camera store in San Francisco downtown, and it was a professional camera store. And he would come in once in a while, and he was a fun guy. We always would show him the latest gadget, the new thing, and we joke around with him. We show him an Instamatic camera and try to sell him one, and so on. Today, I'm sure he would love digital. He would be a master of digital darkroom and Photoshop and all that, because he just loved all that stuff. So.
But he'd have the latest iPhone.
Oh, I'm sure he would.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Or he may just frown on it for photography. Some people frown on it. Would never think
Don't you wish you could ask him that? This world we live in where we all walk around with cameras.
Yeah.
What would he think of that?
It's changed. I mean, that's a subject for another discussion,
Yeah,
another
definitely.
day.
It's a
But
philosophy.
it's really changed things.
Karen points out the zone system came from Minor White, but Ansel Adams really used it.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually true. Minor White, in some of his photography, he did use the zone system, but it really wasn't anything to other people. It wasn't really known. Minor White was actually not really that well known either. And it was Ansel Adams who actually used it.
Yeah, and just used it to the nth degree, right? Like just the fact that he gets that moon to pop out like that.
Right.
I doubt anybody had done anything like that before.
And again, the magic of the zone system is, the concept behind it is very simple, that you need to have every tonality from complete black to complete white in the negative so you can work with it. And density of the negative so you can work with it. If you don't have that moon, exposed for the detail, there's no way you can ever print that. It's got to be in the negative. So that's the whole idea of the zone system, is to give you a full range of material, if you will, to work with in the printing.
So if Ansel Adams was a musician, he would be a great composer and a virtuoso player, right?
Yes, he was very good on piano. I'm told.
Yeah, like he's good at both. And Gail has pointed out in chat that she loves the fact that we're talking about this two different parts to photography, and he just happens to be like the Steph Curry of both.
Hey, there you go.
Very good.
Yeah.
And as a kid, he was kind of a quiet kid, and wasn't much interested in education. In 1915, when they had the World's Fair in San Francisco, his parents bought him a season pass, and he went to the fair almost every day and saw the exhibits, from all around the world and so on. He studied piano, so he was kind of an odd, reclusive kid.
So he went to the PPIE.
Yes, he did.
That's so cool.
Yes, he did, and that his parents thought that would be a wonderful education, and it was, because there were booths and pavilions from all countries all over the world exhibiting. It was what's called a World's Fair. So yeah.
Lorna asks, "Is there? Do we know what his ancestry was? Like his?"
I don't. Yeah.
I don't either.
Yeah, don't know. But he was, as Verena said, a San Franciscan. Grew up and lived in San Francisco his whole life.
Do you know what high school he went to?
What's that?
You know what high school he went to? He didn't go to Lowell, did he?
I don't know. I really don't know. Yeah. So this is one of my favorite Adams, and you know, I always say when I see this photograph, I can smell it. You know,
Yeah.
you get if you've been to Yosemite and it's stood in a place like this, it has this wonderful sweetness about a smell. You know, about it from the trees and all that, and it's just
There is a quote by Sarkovsky. He was the greatest curator at MoMA in New York. What he said about this work: when you look at a good Ansel Adams, you think you know the temperature, the relative humidity, and the months. Where Adams was able to capture shimmering light and atmospheric conditions despite the inherent constraints of working in black and white. And that photograph, like Rob says, is the one.
yeah,
You smell it.
just gorgeous. Yeah, and I believe they have a large format print of this in the show, if I recall.
Yeah.
And you know, when you go to see the show, the thing to enjoy and to notice is the beauty of the prints themselves as objects. They are beautiful objects, you know, handmade objects, as I said in the darkroom. And that's when you stand in front of a large format photograph like this in black and white. It's printed in what's called gelatin silver, and that's the emulsion. And what that means is that there are millions of tiny particles of silver suspended in a gelatin emulsion, and the silver is what holds the light. So it's what holds the blacks and the whites and everything in between. So when you stand in front of a gorgeous print like this, that's well lit, the silver reflects back at you. So it takes on what we call a presence. So when you go to the exhibition, notice that, you know, stand there and just notice the presence of the print, how it pops out and speaks to you. It's unique. Digital prints don't have it. You can't see it on your computer screen. You know, we can't recreate that. But it's the magic of standing in front of a gelatin silver print.
Yeah, this is a funny thing about doing what we're doing right now. It's great because it gets you prepared for what you're going to see in the gallery. But we want you to know what you see in the gallery is going to be even more dramatic than this.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And it kind of it's actually three-dimensional when you really think about it.
Yeah. Well, and the larger format prints are gorgeous.
Yeah.
And you know, what enabled him to do these larger format prints, these huge blow-ups, was the fact that he shot with an 8x10 glass negative, like you saw in the with the picture of him with his big bellows camera. That is what's called a large format camera. Yes, there you see it, and that enabled. You could see the well, you can't see it in this picture too well. Behind his hat would be the negative, but you can see it's a very large negative, possibly glass, possibly film, but this is probably an 8x10 size negative. So you have a lot of density there that you can print from that allows you to blow it up.
Yeah, it's kind of like if we take a digital image and then we kind of stretch it, it'll become pixelated. But if it's super high definition, it's still gonna retain some sharpness. And
exactly, it's the same thing.
Definitely.
Same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we have another of these too that Rodney. Yeah, no, not here. I guess it's further down.
Another.
This is actually this is actually a really interesting photograph. As a photograph, I think it is really wonderful. But it was done 1942 at Glacier Park, and it was a winner of the Sierra Club because this photograph actually saved the Kings River from being transferred from the Forest Service to the National Park Service. And the director of the National Park Service said that this was a silent yet most effective voice in his campaign. And it was this photograph that actually saved the Kings River, which is sort of wonderful when you think it's a photograph that saved something.
Yes, you know, and then they point out during the show that he was an early proponent of environmentalism and naturalism, and you know, spent a lot of time in the Sierra, and the Sierra Club used to be a major proponent, you know, of that, and there are there are contemporary photographers and in the exhibition that they show as being influenced by Adams. It's very interesting to see the newer photographs paired with one of his. The way that the show is curated, the way it's hung, whether you see comparisons, it's quite interesting. You can see his influence on some of the more contemporary photographers.
So you really
But he was an environmentalist way back, before it was popular.
So you're really impressed with the way that DeYoung put this show together.
Yes, yeah. The curating is beautiful.
It was very good.
Yeah.
Okay, so we already saw this one.
We saw this one, yeah.
All right, let's go on to this one.
Yeah.
I just love the line of the dune. It's so precise, and yet you see the sand, I think, blowing across the dune.
Yeah, gorgeous.
Different textures.
And this is one of those photographs, since it's so large in the things, when you start counting the zones, of course,
Yeah.
it's only on a computer. If you start counting the zones, you can see every single zone in this one. So you can imagine how long it takes him to take a photograph, how long he's standing there until the sun, the weather, that everything is right. And this is one of those photographs. It is an amazing photograph, the shape, the light, and this exemplifies the zone system.
Yes, and I love the composition of this piece because if you notice the peak on the top, where he puts that at the edge of the frame rather than showing us the sky. We know that's the sky, but in a normal photograph, you would have a little sky above that point. But here he puts it right at the edge of the frame, and it creates an abstract photograph. Because everything is these different shapes, and of course the shapes are all brought out by the different plays of light and the different tonalities that Verena is talking about, the zones. So it has we know what it is. We know it's a sand dune, but his framing makes it into a abstraction.
It does.
And,
I like that comment that the abstraction, Rob, because of course that's what's going on in the world of painting at this time.
Exactly. Yeah. The mid 20th century, even earlier, the 30s and the 40s in Europe, particularly the Moholy-Nagy, the so-called New Vision, was all about modernism and abstraction and photography. There's wonderful photography done in that mode. Some of my favorite pictures are from that era.
Yeah, Lorna says this takes her breath away, mythic and mysterious qualities.
Yeah.
Drama and tension from sand, says Karen. Yeah.
Gorgeous print.
Yeah, really true.
Here's another smeller.
Oh, this is a wonderful, this is actually really a wonderful photograph. When you look at it, you think of all the other Ansel Adams photographs where he's alone in nature. He's climbing mountains, he's walking miles in order to take a photograph. Now, this one is interesting because here he is totally disguised. There is a lot of life around there. There are cars around there, parking lots, etc. If you look at it, you never know that 100 feet away, there is a highway. And that is how Ansel Adams also manipulated his shots in the darkroom. He can manipulate his negatives. And that's why this is such an interesting shot, because it seems so, the lone tree and the water. No, there was so much around there, but with his photograph, you wouldn't know.
Yeah, I love the especially like the white in the leaves. It's almost like an abstraction, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and again, this is one I can smell. It's so gorgeous. I could just feel being by that stream, swallowing the sweetness of those branches, of those leaves.
And I know we're going to talk about black and white versus color in a little bit. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but if this one were color, it would be just a very different experience.
It would still be beautiful in a different way. But
yeah.
Oh, I just think I love it as black and white photograph. All right, so here we get to the color. Let's talk about color. He's known for black and white, but he does work in color.
Yeah, he called, actually when color started to come around, he likened color to an out of tune piano. And for him to start in color photography, there were just too many stages of photographing that he could not control. Another thing is he couldn't print these. He had to give them out to a printer and somebody else printed them. And that was anathema to Ansel Adams. So
That's right. Mhm.
So tell me more about that. You needed very different equipment to print color back then, or what was it that prevented him from being able to do his own prints?
if you're in the darkroom, black and white photography, you get used to that. Then when color photography comes in, personally, maybe Rob has. I have not done color photography in the darkroom because it was just too difficult.
Yeah.
There was so much to it that I really didn't want it.
Yeah, I haven't done it either, but I know that it technically it's much more complicated in terms of temperatures and all that. And it's a whole another craft to learn. And I know that like photographers who do color prints, when a lab does it for them, a professional lab, they don't send it to Walgreens, it's a professional lab where someone prints it, but they do a lot of test prints. They'll do a print and then it comes back to the photographer, and the photographer says, no, lighten this part, darken that part, bring out the texture here. And they might go back and forth 5-6 times before they get a print that's.
So Ansel Adams basically in the end called them aesthetically inconsequential, but technically remarkable.
There you go.
That's it.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
Well, we've got a comment from Gail that I like this comment. She says it's amazing framing. On one level, it's a black and white photo framed by the tree in color. So cool. I do that. Think about it. Yeah, it really does have like a kind of monochrome. I mean, there's blue, I guess, in the sky.
Yeah,
but it's like the color that really pops out is this tree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good observation. Yeah.
Maybe you have to be Ansel Adams to really want to do that kind of an image.
Yeah. Let's move on to that. I think we have the comparison there of the color to
Karen,
black and white and color. Not yet. Well, a couple.
So now this one, let's talk about this one, because he might have preferred working in black and white, but this is a pretty amazing image, I'd say.
He basically, this is the Monument Valley. He called his Monument Valley photographs the finest photography he has ever done. And that's why this is so interesting to see it in color, and then you see it in black and white. He loved to go and photograph there.
Yeah.
Do you have that in black and white?
Yeah, here's the black and white.
So how do people feel about the difference? Anybody out there has a feeling?
Yeah, who prefers, if you can go back in time and have either one for $400, which one are you going to choose? You can only have one, no. He's not going to give you more than one for the $400. So I see, so Gail likes the color because of the red earth. It's so unique. Sherry would also choose the color. I want to go on record as saying I think I would choose the color. I
would too.
Yeah, I love black and white photography, but I think I would also. The color is gorgeous. The shadow, the light, the play of light, it's just perfect.
And the Giants fan of me likes that it's orange and black.
Okay.
Color has more movement, says Lorna.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Art Viewing Adventures crowd wants the color one, at least for this picture, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
But now we got.
This is not as interesting a picture. It's not really a fair comparison.
Yeah. Also, it's not framed the same way. If we were to see it framed the same way, we might be thinking differently. But the other one is framed so beautifully.
Yeah.
Colors are rich. Yeah.
And we'll take a look at the Tetons and Snake River. This is the black and white. And then the color.
We photographed it in color later on, right?
Yeah.
So again, who is going to choose? Let's get a poll, black and white versus color. I really should have gotten the poll feature going for this one, but
Yeah, I know. Would have been nice.
so I see black and white on the snake shot, says Gail. I'm again with you guys on this.
Yeah.
In
Same here.
this one, my understanding, let's talk about this one. It's really wonderful contrast.
Yeah.
It's
also, again, Robert talked about that before, the depth of field. This is another one where you see the river almost at your feet, and it goes all the way to China. And it's just amazing how we can capture that type of depth of field. This is a great photograph for that. And the clouds.
Like called the Snake River.
The detail in the foreground all the way to the tips of the mountaintops and the clouds. Yeah. Well, I would choose the black and white here. I'm partial to black and white photography. I love it for the reasons that I explained about the sort of the magic of the print, the beauty of the object of a beautifully printed photograph.
And do you feel that same way about color photographs, Rob?
Well, I do, but less so. I have less passion about them, and
it depends, I think, who does the color photography. There are some photographers nowadays, maybe 20 years ago. I love their color photography, and I would not want to see those in black and white. So it just depends on the photographer and how the colors they are choosing, how they're choosing it.
Also, the digital printing, there's so much available digitally, where the photographer or the printer can add color, change colors. There's so much manipulation that can be done to the digital image that there's some gorgeous digital prints being made. I think that far surpass what you could make with from a film negative, which is what Ansel had to work with.
Because our darkroom is now called Photoshop and Lightroom.
Right, exactly. Digital darkroom, and so much can be done. So yeah.
Let's keep moving. So there's that color. It seems like I saw more people preferred the black and white. Now here's something we don't really think of.
What's the result on the poll?
I think there was more for black and white.
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, we wanted to talk a little bit about Ansel's other kind of work that he did besides landscapes, which here's a wonderful example: Georgia O'Keeffe and Orville Fox.
Yeah, I love that. Just love how he's captured Georgia O'Keeffe.
Yeah.
It's like you just get a sense of her as this mischievous, kind of very, she seems like she's having a great time at this moment that he's captured.
Yeah, that's her
personality. It's almost like she doesn't know that the photographer is there. That's how good he is.
And this is not a snapshot. It wasn't something. He worked large format and had to be set up and all that, and so it was posed, and yet it has that instantaneous sense about it, like he just captured the moment. So it's quite nice. Shows a whole different level of skill that he had.
It almost looks like the denouement of a Western,
Yes.
they're going to ride off into the sunset after the bad guy.
Yeah.
Oh, and Lorna says the background is so expansive, just like Georgia.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Wow.
Yeah, she was known for like these amazing, very naturalistic backgrounds, right?
Yeah. So to frame it that way was quite something.
So we threw this in. This isn't part of the show, but something a lot of people don't know about Ansel Adams is he was in the coffee business, sort of.
Well, he did commercial work. We have a few examples of that, but this was he did do commercial photography. He had to earn a living, and selling photographs, as I said, was very difficult to do, and you didn't make a lot of money when you sold them. So he made a living being a commercial photographer, and but in this case, he licensed this particular image, Winter Morning Yosemite Valley, to the Hills Brothers Company, and they created a special edition coffee can. I don't know how many were done, but they come up for auction typically, and they sell for a few $100s these days, and they are limited. And interesting, fun story behind this one. Imogen Cunningham, who was quite a outspoken person. She was nobody's fool and quite feisty. And when this came out, she and Adams were very good friends. They were going back to the F-64 days. And when this came out, she thought that he had just sold out, that this was like the worst thing that a photographer could do would be to put an image on a coffee can. So what did she do? She got an empty can and planted a marijuana plant in it and sent it to Ansel. So
That was
maybe
Imogen.
they let it reach, after they harvested it and smoked that together. Who knows?
I don't know what happened to it, but that was so he got a good kick out of that.
Different kind of zone system for that.
Yeah, that's right.
So this is like hard to believe this is the Ansel Adams when you think of him as like the great Yosemite photographer, but then again, maybe this is like the urban equivalent of Yosemite. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, and again, there is this, Robert talks about the depth of field is just amazing where he's standing, and then also look at light and dark, the way he's using that. It's his own zone system. And here
Yes.
again, you see, somebody just Gail said urban mountains. Yeah, that's what it looks like. That's a good quote.
And just like these great cliffs, right? Just like Half Dome.
Yeah. So it's the same layers of light that you see in the landscapes, right?
Mhm.
Oh, and Leon says he loves the way the light pole stands out.
Yes. Yeah, that's beautiful, isn't it?
Makes me think of Versailles. We had this great Versailles show a couple years ago at SF MoMA, and he did some really great things with light poles.
Yeah.
Urban Canyon too, says Roger. Yeah. And just like, boy, what a great way to capture New York City. And we don't see any people. That's another cool thing about
But
it.
it had to be,
Well,
had to
there
be
are a
very
few
early.
if you look.
Huh? What's that?
2 or 3 people in there.
Oh, okay.
Are there
Because-
people in there? Oh, yeah. Okay. I didn't
Yeah,
get
right
the
there.
part.
Oh, yeah.
Walking
Well,
towards
partly
us.
it was a long exposure, probably, so they may not have registered, but also it's very early in the morning, and the building you see right in the center on the bottom, I believe, is the stock exchange, right?
Oh, right there?
Yeah, right. No,
Really?
down below. I think
Oh,
that's.
yeah, you're
I
right.
believe
That probably
that's
is the stock exchange.
New York Stock Exchange. So
Huh.
yeah.
Cool.
And then the building opposite was a famous picture that Stieglitz made,
Right.
the Morgan Bank, I think, or whatever it was
Mhm.
called.
Oh.
Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, so now here's one in Manzanar is where one of the Japanese internment camps that Dorothea Lange was also photographing at this time. And he's got some pictures of the landscape around Manzanar, which doesn't have the drama of Dorothea Lange, but this is a very poignant photograph. What do you guys think?
Well, very different for him to do something like this. Beautiful setup, tabletop piece, if you will, and it's very poignant, as you say. And I think Ansel and Dorothea Lange and many artists and many of the people, of course, were very upset by the whole idea of the internment camps for the Japanese citizens, and so that's why I think a lot of them did go and photograph and make art around it. Because
And also there is this letter that's probably or maybe addressed to the man there who now is in Manzanar, and behind it is Jesus, is a religious figure, and like the person says there, still life with death, and that's what it is. Death is really behind it.
I mean, it's interesting. It's a photograph of a photograph.
Mhm.
And it's also the context of it. I mean, you look at this and you see the letter with really beautiful handwriting in the young soldier. What I take from this is these people are just like us. They're no different from other Americans. This what's going on is completely against the values of the United States of America. That's my reading from 2023. What do you guys think?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. Yep.
And I don't know, but I would assume that this is something that he saw and photographed, and that he did not rearrange it for the photograph. I could be wrong, but I assume that he saw this in someone's living unit there and photographed it as is, but I don't know for sure.
Oh, Gail's pointing out the stamps were cheaper. Yes, 6 cents for the stamps.
Yeah, six
Great.
cents of stamps.
Great comment from Leon. Shows the power of his technique can usefully be brought to still life. And then Sherry says they are locked up and their son is fighting for his country.
And that's very true.
Yeah, that's very true.
You know?
Yeah.
So here's something I like this because it's from our Bay Area, and he did a lot of photographs of places in the Bay Area.
Mills College. Yeah, yeah.
This is another one where you smell it, and where you just absolutely, you just feel the atmosphere there. And look at the color range, talking about the zone system. Amazing. It's so beautiful. It's basically nothing photographed. There's nothing really shown, but it's a beautiful photograph. And God, would I have photographed it? Possibly not, but he saw more than I did.
Yeah, our friend Gerard, who's been a guest on this program, this reminds me of the sorts of things he does with his painting. Gerard Boulong.
Boulong, yes.
Yeah.
And I own one of his paintings, yes.
Yes, you do. I remember when you got that. We're getting close to the end, and we did want to point out that there are some photographs of Ansel Adams with photographs of contemporary photographers who have been influenced by him. So this is something that Ansel Adams did, showing like a burned tree. But then we have this is Laura McPhee, and some really dramatic photographs of trees that have been burned. Kind of very poignant in our world today with global climate change and wildfire. So she's just one of many contemporary photographers who are included in this exhibition.
Yeah, and when you see this print, I mean, it's a gorgeous print. It's a large scale, as I recall, and it's quite dramatic. So,
and the exhibit is so fantastic because it includes people like this, contemporary photographers. I mean, 100 of Ansel Adams and a lot of people that are photographing the same things nowadays. And they even go back to 19th century photography. It's a great, great show.
By the way, I have to say that this photograph here on the right reminds me a lot of Lee Friedlander. And he's famous for doing self-portraits of him as a silhouette.
Yeah, that is a self-portrait.
It is.
Yeah, and a wonderful one. And then with the backdrop of this rock, really.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what enabled him to do it.
But we'll finish up with this. This is actually the photograph they're using to publicize the exhibition. And it's the Golden Gate before the Golden Gate Bridge, basically, which I didn't know, Verena. You pointed out that he grew up in Seacliff. And
oh, that's what the view that he had. One of the views, this and the Marin Headlands.
Yeah. So it's just like a wonderful way to think about our region here in the Bay Area and the drama of the natural landscape of this place that we have done so much to alter, I guess.
Even seeing here, I'm just so amazed. Look at the clouds, all the versions of the clouds, the dark, the light, the gray. It's just amazing. I wish I would photograph like that also on my iPhone.
Well, I want to thank both you, Verena, and you, Rob, for coming on. You guys are always fun to talk to about photography. I think
we had fun. Thank you.
Really excited about this exhibition. You guys have until July 23rd to get to the DeYoung Museum and see this. It's seemed like, it does get a little crowded. So if you can go during the week, I think that'd be good. Because you want to get close to these photographs really to get the most out of them. And Gail says that she also did the Alameda Library's Ansel Adams talk, and she thinks we have added a lot to the discussion of this. So thanks for that, Gail.
Good, thank you.
Other nice comments out there in chat. Thanks everybody for throwing your thoughts in the chat.
Yes.
And any last thoughts, Verena or Rob?
No, it's just fun to talk about somebody who is an icon in photography, not just the images, also the darkroom work.
Who
He's
you
just an
got to-
amazing guy.
And who you both got to know personally.
Yeah, I didn't
Oh,
know him
yeah,
really,
well.
just in passing. Verena took a workshop from him, but I just knew him in passing. But one parting thought I think is that a lot of people kind of poo-poo Ansel Adams. They say, oh, it's pretty stuff and doesn't have much to it, and there's nothing too profound about it. But take it for what it is. I mean, look at it and look at the art that he creates and the craft that enables him to do that. That's the magic of Adams, I think. So enjoy it for what it is. It's just beautiful, beautiful pieces.
Yeah, I've always been in awe of Ansel Adams. So thank you both, and
Thank
look
you.
forward to having you back. Art Viewing Adventures, we're doing only one a month, but we will be back in a couple weeks to talk about a show I saw at the Whitney in New York. It is, gosh, I'm going to space out. It's who did Nighthawks?
Oh,
I'm having a little brain hiccup here.
we got three.
Ed Hopper.
Edward Hopper, yes.
Has great painting in the collection of SF MoMA, and there was a wonderful show in New York City, and I'll be talking to Jeanette Pettibone, another of my favorite guides, about that. So we'll be back here in a couple weeks for that. Nikki, tell us what is coming up next from the Community Living Campaign.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that one with Edward Hopper's not that far away. It's Monday, June 12th. So that's only a couple of weeks away. Yeah, so I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much. We must have had at least 35 people on this program today. So thank you everybody for coming. And I just wanted to tell you, Rodney, I've learned so much about art. You've really opened up a new world to me in the museums. And I wanted to tell you one of the things I did over my vacation. I mentioned that book to you that I just read. It's called The Bohemians. It's a novel. It's on the bestsellers list. And, it's not like the deepest, most meaningful thing in the world, but it was a really nice novel about the life of Dorothea Lane. So I was so happy to read it because I learned so much about her from being on the program. And the author is Jasmine. I don't have my glasses. Yeah. Darzik. Yeah. So it's a new book. It was really fun to read it. And she mentions her friendship with Ansel Adams in the book. So it really hit home with what I've learned here with all of you.
Yeah, I would ditto that. I've read the book also, and I enjoyed it very much. It's
It's a fun book.
fictionalized story of her life coming to San Francisco.
Oh yeah, it's really fun in the heyday in the 1920s. So yeah. So thank you all. Please stay tuned with the Community Living Campaign with all our activities. And I called Roger. This show was so great. I called Roger in the middle or towards the beginning, and look, you showed up. Thanks, Roger.
Roger.
Yeah, and everybody else. So we'll see you on the 12th for the next art viewing. Everybody have a great month and a great Memorial Day coming up. And what else is coming up? That's all for now.
Thank you, Nikki.
Take care, of
Thanks,
course.
everybody.
Take care,
Thanks,
everybody.
Rodney.
Thanks again,
Thank you.
Jennifer.
Thank you. I almost
Thanks,
forgot. Thank you
Jennifer.
very much.
See you soon.
Great show.